Welcome to episode 9 of Nexus Now, a Nexus gaming series podcast bringing you news, stories, and personalities from the NGS community as well as the greater Heroes of the Storm universe. How's it going, everyone? I'm Murda, one of your hosts. Along with me, we got Ghostdunk. We got Jaxster returning as always. How's it going, guys?
I think it's going pretty good. I'm still pretty hype after Blizzcon. I had a great time there. Looking forward to see what the future brings. A little bit of it is a little scary and a little bit is exciting.
Jax, yeah, going into BlizzCon, I was like, I hesitate to use the word cautiously optimistic, but I was a little bit. I rag on Blizzard a lot for their changes, but that's because I'm so sad by like how much we could achieve. And to be honest, we'll get into it, but I was really shocked by the number of changes that they wanted to implement to a 3-year-old game. Kind of reconfirms that they care about heroes.
We have a ton to be jam-packed in this episode, and I am proud to introduce our guest who will be joining us for the entirety of this episode. It's the one, it's the only, it's the bearded Bahamut. How's it going, man?
I am doing good. How are all of you? Thank you for having me on this podcast. Really looking forward to diving into all this BlizzCon news. As Murda knows, that was a ball of an event, and it was awesome to kind of get to know and also meet more people from the community. But I'm just ready to dive right into this. I'm seeing all the notes, and there are too many things to get into.
BlizzCon was amazing. I know, obviously got to hang out with you a bit, Baha. Ghostdunk, you were there too. Got to spend some time with you. Missed out on seeing Jaxster. Yeah. Maybe next year.
Guaranteed. If we're still doing this in a year, we're all going to go out to BlizzCon and we're going to meet up and we're going to do an in-person podcast.
Oh, yes. I am so down for that.
I'm a little disappointed I didn't do that in the first place.
I wasn't signed on as editor-in-chief until like 2 weeks after BlizzCon tickets went on sale, so I wasn't too invested in going. And then like 2 weeks later happened, and I was like, I should have got the tickets.
Well, we'll look forward to next year. It'll be a great time. But let's talk a bit about the BlizzCon that just happened. 2018 is in the books, and first on the list here, we're going to talk a bit about these HGC Finals that went on. What an amazing event. A little bit different than they do at the mid-season brawl, but it all kicked off with those group stage matches in the opening week, and finally made it the top 8 teams into the BlizzCon stage. Ghost, give me your overall impressions of the event, how it went down.
It was pretty much by the script, except Dignitas didn't. Really, the biggest surprise to me is how poorly Dignitas fared against Gen G. Like, they went into the finals, got stomped 2 matches, and then the third match they, came down to a 3% core call, which was intense. But man, Murda was there as well, and I think Bahamut was there too, and you could just feel the energy in the room dive as Dignitas got the core down to 3%, and then they all wiped, and everyone knew it was over, and everyone just kind of sat down, just completely stunned. It was impressive.
The one thing I wanted to bring up is, I promise this will be the last time this episode we rag on Blizzard, because a lot of the other changes are really positive, but this bracket format, it's killing me. Okay, Team Liquid going to Game 5 in the semifinals against Genji, and we don't get to see how good they actually could have been. Team Liquid, when they show up, they are like as good, if not better, than Dignitas, and they took it to Game 5 with Genji, and then they're gone, and we never see them ever again. It kills me. It has to be a double elimination. It really does.
I talked with Casanova, and he basically said it's the best and worst thing about BlizzCon. The worst thing about BlizzCon is that the best team might not win BlizzCon, but the best thing about BlizzCon is that the best team might not win BlizzCon. It's exciting.
It's a good point.
It's all about time. I know it's all about time because it's just a 2-day event, and I think maybe a couple of years ago that made sense because BlizzCon, we didn't have Overwatch, we didn't, it was just StarCraft and WoW, but we've gotten more games, we've gotten more people. I think it really they need to think about maybe implementing a 3rd day or splitting it up or something, because it's way too big to to only have over the course of 2 days. I was looking at the schedule and I was like, if I was going to go, I was like, man, there's so much stuff that I'd want to see. Like, I want to go see the new Overwatch hero Ashe, but it's taking place like during the HGC Finals. Or if I wanted to go to any of the next events for HOTS, I'd have to skip out on matches, and it just kills me.
Yeah, that's always the hardest thing about being at the con is where to go, who to talk to, and especially when you know so many people that are going to the event, like you want to be able to see all of them. And by the time the 2 days are over, there's a good chance you missed out on at least one thing you wanted to do. And I'd agree that if it was possible and feasible for them to do within the limitations of the conference center, adding in that third day might actually be what they need.
I don't. It seems like they're kind of shying away from that. They did increase attendance this year, but the lines were way longer than I remember them from last year. So I don't think they're going to be expanding it a whole lot in between now and next year. Well, I think a good compromise would be to play more games and have a different format before BlizzCon, and then have maybe just the best teams play at BlizzCon.
Baha, were there any other matches that stood out for you during the event on stage at BlizzCon?
Honestly, I actually really didn't get to catch many of them. I was realistically running around doing interviews and just getting stuff scheduled and helping out with the Heroes Hype like stream team as well. So overall, I watched a lot of the actual games on my phone throughout most of BlizzCon, and then I caught a couple of them. Like, I ran down, I caught like the last one of the Heroes Hearth game, which like that one I really, really wanted to see, and I made time for it, and I watched that, and I was just like, that was a soul crushing match, because I think the thing that I was saying to a lot of people, I was just like, I think Heroes Hearth has the opportunity to do it, and it's just if they're gonna show up and be able to do that. And I realistically put them against Gen G in the end as the two finalists for BlizzCon, because I thought that they had one of the best storylines from the entirety of 2018 HGC season. They came from the open division in the phase 1, dominated phase 2, basically made it to, had a couple upsets through the Western Clash, I think it was, or Eastern Clash, I can't remember. Western Clash, yeah.
Yeah, they played well at Western Clash.
And it's just overall, like, they had shown up as a team. They were shining. They actually had a lot of good momentum behind them. And then that game was just it's so hard to watch. Like, I was doing like filming of the crowd and stuff like that and taking photos. And I ended up just like sitting down at a point. I was just like, this is one of the hardest things to watch, because you can just see them just like the pressure was so much. And I don't know if it was that or if it was just I don't know. But that was the one game series that I really, really enjoyed watching. Unfortunately, the team I wanted to win didn't win, but Gen G at the end, they took that, and I don't know. I think it was Jaxster saying the entire crowd fell. I was pretty happy when that Calaris core happened. Like, how else do you end a BlizzCon but with a Calaris core? And then also, yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, I too wanted a full 5-game series, because I mean, casting and watching this game so much, I want as many games as possible, and I was robbed of that. But no, overall, it was still like every game that I did get to see, I got to see a couple Liquid games. Those were really good. Overall, like, every team that was there, I thought had a viable chance. Maybe excluding that Volskaya Foundry Murky Samuro Blade Master game. Like, it's Blade Master. Like, that's the thing. Like, if it was Illusion Master, I'd be like, all right, I see what you're kind of trying to do here. That is actually a viable hero on that map and a viable way to play it, because there's a lot of, we'll call them features, that you can use with your Samuro clones. But overall, I was a little disappointed in the Tempo series, but in general, the HGC is awesome.
Another thing too, I don't know if you guys saw, there actually are going to be some changes to that Tempo Storm roster that were kind of hinted at yesterday. Glau and Vin are reportedly leaving the team. No replacements are yet announced.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think we should definitely do our next podcast should be focusing a little bit on the personnel changes.
Now, just out of curiosity, because this has been floating around in so many different Discords today. And the one thing that I always keep landing on, I'm just like, cool, yeah, roster swaps, that's all good. Like, I just want those to get going so people can start playing the games. But what I want to find out is our map rotation. Do you guys actually have any preferences on what they take in and out?
We've talked about.
I have my own, but
did we not talk to Crowan about this? Or no, was it Cav? It was Cav, and Cav assured us
it was Cav.
that they would take out Braxis, I believe, and put in Alterac. Now this was
Alterac
before
Pass, yeah.
Hanamura got re-implemented. So I'm
and
not sure.
Garden
And Garden of Terror.
Garden Terror.
I don't think.
Yeah, I tend to think that they're going to shy away from Garden of Terror because it's I've been having mixed feelings on it. Like, and sometimes the objective seems super strong and sometimes it seems super weak. It feels like Cursed Hollow, but even more snowbally, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably go for Alterac Pass and replace Braxis with it. Because it's just like, no, like, very few teams like Braxis, and the ones that do they're just kind of cheesing it and whatnot. Are there any maps that I'm missing that, like, I know Sky Temple has been floated as somebody.
That's what I've been seeing today. Like, there's a lot of stale games on Battlefield of Eternity, and so I think a lot of people. Well, yeah, it's very basically fight, win, then do the objective, or win the objective, then fight, and then it's very their style forward, and I doubt we'll see that fall off. I agree though that some of those games can be very, very kind of like, okay, there's this, okay, there's that. Like, it's very just kind of like, there's motions for it. And then Sky Temple, yeah, that's the one that I've also seen when we were all discussing in different Discords. It's the same thing. Like, Sky Temple, I don't know how I feel about it, and that swapped in for Alterac Pass would be good. And then I wouldn't be opposed to then still taking out Braxis Holdout and putting in the Garden of Terror. And I just think the mechanic would be a little interesting, or maybe they swap out Tomb and put in Garden of Terror. So you're just trading kind of mechanics in a sense here.
Yeah. Tomb would be an interesting one. I'm not a huge fan just of the snowbally nature of it, but I think the point with Sky Temple, I have a person on my team who hates Sky Temple, like, with a passion, because it's got that Blackheart's base style of you can end, like, without even pushing or whatnot. But I think the reason why it's going to stay in is because it's the most inoffensive map. Like, you can do it a macro style, you can do it through team fighting, you can do it through boss control, you can do it through mercs, you can do it through just pushing, you can do it through boss ganks. It's inoffensive to everybody, and it's not really conducive to one particular strategy over another. You can trade, which is boring to some people, but it's actually strategic in a lot of ways. So I think people are going to shy away from it, as opposed to like Braxis Holdout, where you have to get a good 4-man or else you're going to lose the bottom lane, or you have to get essentially a boring top lane that's just going to smash into each other.
I don't think that the mechanics of the map are necessarily as important as the draft. Braxis Holdout changed a little bit because of the rework, but before the rework, the person who picked the map almost always lost, and so there was no reason to pick it. And so, like, draft is going to matter, I think, a lot more than enjoying the mechanics of the map or being things like snowballing. The exception would be like Blackheart's Bay. I mean, that was a decent map in competitive. The competitive teams didn't pick it because of the snowball effect. If you get too far behind, it just feels bad and you can't come back at all. I think with Sky Temple and Braxis, it's a pick your poison. Which one is it going to be? Garden of Terror doesn't seem very doesn't seem likely. Garden of Terror seems like no one really knows how to play it. It's very open. It's Cursed Hollow, but without bosses, which kind of makes it a slower map. And I think the way the map is shaped doesn't make sense anymore with the new mechanic.
It is kind of like the Uncanny Valley. Like, this is traditional Garden of Terror, but like, it doesn't feel like it. It does feel very strange. And even after a couple months with the new changes, it still feels relatively just like, I don't know how to play this map. I don't know if you guys get that feeling. Whereas like with Cursed Hollow, it has essentially the same mechanic, but it feels a lot different. It really does. Well, do you guys want to move on to the BlizzCon news? We talked about the finals. Let's move on. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm sure Ghost, and we got a special presentation from Ghost later. So, okay, moving on now to BlizzCon news. Let's start off with Orphea. So we got a new hero. I'm interested to hear y'all's opinion on it. So it's a Heroes Nexus hero. It's not from any pre-established worlds or realms. It's she's brand spanking new. So I'm interested to hear about it. Let's start off with, I've separated this into cinematic, lore, kit, and power. So let's start off with the not gameplay related stuff. Let's start off with the cinematic. What did you guys think? Compare this to last year's cinematic, which was the Dragons one, I believe.
I mean, it's it's not Alex Straza and Hanzo fighting, so it got a less of a reception from the audience than last year, where you get to cheer for your favorite characters. Like all of a sudden, here are these characters that show up out of nowhere. We gotta start fighting already. Ghostdunk, on this, like we haven't even gotten to like the XP changes. Like I hated last year's cinematic. I thought it was absolute garbage from a cinematic standpoint, and I love this one this year. But then again, I'm not super into these franchises. Right. Well, okay. So I'm judging by crowd reception here. As far as quality goes, I think they're actually pretty similar. I think they're both. The last year's cinematic, I think, they both looked amazing. I really liked the way Orphea's cinematic looked. They combined some 2D animation along with the 3D animation. Like the style was really interesting.
And they didn't try and replicate like League, like Riot stuff, where it's like hyper realistic. They tried to do their own like pseudo comic, pseudo hots, which I thought worked very well.
Yeah, a more whimsical style, and I thought anytime you see the Raven Lord, he does seem like this imposing figure. I'm still wanting to find out more about this character and kind of how he got his power, and maybe how that power might transition in the event of his demise.
Yeah. I think there's a fine line Blizzard has to walk with the writing of these things, because last year's also was kind of rough as far as writing goes. And the Orphea cinematic, also the writing was like, oh, so they're fighting, and like, oh, she's so upset, and like, who cares? It's kind of awkward to watch. And you compare that to the amazing Battle for Azeroth cinematic.
Oh,
and
everyone's established.
Right. Well, not only is everyone established, but like, even if you don't know any of these characters, Blizzard finds that line to make you feel nostalgic about something that you don't even know about, and like they make the writing generic enough to appeal to you, to your lizard brain, without getting too into it. And I think they failed with both this year and last year's cinematic. Last year's just skated by just on having character recognition, and so you have to walk that line. And Overwatch nails it every time, every single one of their cinematics.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like getting that sort of feeling back to the viewer. Maybe they would have done a little better with it if they included some heroes that we recognize, ones that already exist within the Nexus, and had them been more a part of that cinematic to try to kind of welcome Orphea into the crew, so to speak. But I mean, overall, like what they did with the comics leading up to it, and then putting out that final page after BlizzCon for the Orphea story. Some of it feels rushed, but I like what they're doing and trying to make it happen. I would just like to see a little more kind of focus on how it like relates back to the rest of the game.
It's just like a really tricky subject to touch on, because like lore wise, like when they initially said they were going to do lore, I was like, oh, like this is just like a little bit of a joke, or it's going to be like a little bit of a side thing that they're just going to do. But it seems like they really want to go like all in on it, and I don't know how I feel about that in terms of like League did this, but like they started like at the release of League, I believe, and like it's really intrinsically tied to all of their characters, whereas like with Heroes it feels like a side thing that's going on, which is why I didn't read the comics like up until like, oh, they released Orphea, and I was like, oh wait, what? Like they introduced her in the comics, so I went back and I read them all, and they're okay. But it really feels like, yeah, they do need to get their act together in terms of like just stop right now and think, okay, what do you want lore to do? What is it that you want? And then set out a coherent strategy, not just like, oh, we want to, we want it to be an accessory, but we don't want it to be overwhelming. And it's like, just make up your mind. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
My take on BlizzCon and how it went down with them only introducing Orphea as the singular new character to be announced at BlizzCon. I think maybe that was also a bit of a misstep, where they probably could have, like in the past, introduced a second character along with it. Maybe would have toned back a little bit of like the Blizzard fanboy disappointment in that we're not getting to see like an Anduin join the game or something big that they get really excited for. What are your thoughts around that? Let's ask Baha. He hasn't talked in a minute.
On just the fact of them only doing one hero?
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fine with it. It gives a spotlight to something that they've been trying to build at. I honestly disagree with like 99% of this, because the other thing too is you're also you're literally comparing World of Warcraft cinematics and Overwatch cinematics, which has probably World of Warcraft is a huge following and viewership, and there's so much to that. So they have a huge market, a huge team, and so of course they're going to be able to do it. Like, did you not see at BlizzCon when they had the entire mocap 30-minute spiel one morning where they're literally showing how they actually captured this one actor's face in a 3-dimensional sphere and then use that to model Anduin? Like, yeah, all right, let's compare that to literally how Ghostdunk was talking about, they were playing around with 2D and 3D animation styles because that ties back to the comic, which they've been building characters through. And so it's hard to kind of compare those two. And then Overwatch is just Overwatch. There's always been a high amount of very good graphic quality to it because, well, that was what they established and that's what they go with. Here's the Storm. I mean, if you didn't like the fact that it was animated that style, then I would then question, did you not like the Nexaramus animations that they did, where it's like a Sunday morning cartoon? Or even the Mechaterial stuff where that was in a completely different art style. So I think with Here's the Storm, it allows them to be a little bit more creative in the realm of, testing out different types of cinematics and testing out these different heroes. And personally, I don't feel like Orphea's rushed or misunderstood or any of those things. I think they built a very good backstory to her. They gave her a place. And so reading through the comics and following through the timeline as it was provided, when she came out, I knew exactly where she sat and what the deal was. And I personally think that giving a spotlight to a singular hero is huge. Not on top of that, you have immense changes coming to the game. And last year we had visibility to, to stealth. We had a map zoom out. We had some towers with no ammo. But here we have massive XP changes and massive, role changes. So I think letting these things be individual components as a whole is a way better strategy. So they say, all right, cool, we've got one lore-based hero that we've really built up and we've kind of created this announcement for, and now we can then focus on the gameplay changes. So that way when we get into this, we now have some, one new hero, and then we're going to have all these cool new changes that are going to be coming in. So personally, I think they absolutely killed it in that realm. Was I disappointed that there are some factors that I don't like? Absolutely. But as a whole, I think it's the right direction. I think it's a really good move.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I say I have no problem. I loved the way that the hero's cinematic looked. I think that I can compare that cinematic with Overwatch, because Overwatch, even though they have the budget, it didn't look any more spectacular than the Heroes one did. I mean, comparing with the one for Azeroth, yeah, it looks more spectacular. But I think it's what I was talking about was the writing of it.
Yeah, which isn't resource dependent. It's not. That's not resource dependent. You don't pay a writer this we're gonna pay you less for work because we don't have as much money. No, it's a case of we don't want Orphea to be we don't want Orphea to be to lore what Varian was to multi-class heroes, a one-off thing that they just throw away because it didn't work quite well.
Yeah, I don't think they're even throwing it away because it didn't work. I want to split between intention and execution. And as far as intention goes, I am so happy with what Blizzard decided to do. They swung for the fences. They saw I think the community is a huge part of it. They saw that Heroes has developed its own thing, its own role in the place. And Orphea existing is sort of a manifestation of all the hype. I mean, we're recording a dang podcast for this video game. I think that, it's good enough to warrant its own character. And I think that's sort of an admission of that and sort of a love letter to fans of, both the developers and the people who play it. So, with intention, I think they swung for the fences, and unfortunately, they didn't hit it out of the park. The execution, I think, was a little lackluster with Orphea. If she came out and she was the coolest character you've ever met, it would be a lot different, I think, if it was something with as cute as Bob. Bob had 30 seconds in an Overwatch short, and everyone loves Bob. And, if Orphea had been that kind of like breakout character, people would be singing a different tune.
Yep.
I was in that front row, and I can't tell you how many people were screaming for her. So I personally, I completely disagree. I think they absolutely nailed it with her. They created something unique in the game, and she is. When you saw all those talents, like the giant chomp and her ultimates and all of that, that wasn't exciting for you at all. You were just like, all right, cool, like whatever.
I think what Ghost and I are saying is I found it like incredible. Like everything this BlizzCon was like a step up from last year. Like, to be honest, like everything was an improvement, and I loved Orphea. I loved her kit. We'll get into her power and whatnot. I loved like everything about how they executed. I think we're trying to like wrap our heads around the not backlash, but like there was a little bit of a backlash to people like on the Reddit and the forums and whatnot trying
What's
to
Reddit?
Yeah, that's Reddit. Trying to condense their points down, what they didn't like about her. And so yeah, and to the point where like people are gonna always be really excited at BlizzCon. Those are the most diehard fans. Unless you release like, I don't know, like a HOTS mobile game, like you're probably gonna hit it out of the park in terms of fans there. We should probably move on at this point. We talked enough.
So I really like talking about this stuff.
Yeah. So
fun topic.
Let's go through the kit real fast and she's been released and how we think her power is coming out. And then we will dive into the rest of the news. Okay. So what initial opinions? How strong do you think she is? Like people are dancing between OP and completely underpowered.
Busted.
Let me throw this in first. I think she's actually, compared to heroes that have come out over the past year, I think she's in a decent spot. Her PTR change that she had coming into live, I think, was tuned in to help out, especially with that Ravenous Hunger quest that you can get at level 7 to help out your chomp ability. I think that small change helped. Maybe a little bit more nerfing needs to go on because it's still being picked nonstop from what I can tell. But overall, her kit, it's fun. It has counterplay, and you can really be a playmaker with this hero in your hands. And I think that's really the important and exciting part about Orphea.
I agree. I think she's fantastic. She's so much fun to play. I had so much fun the first time I played her at BlizzCon, and the second time. I've been grinding her every free chance that I get. That I'm not trying to play with my team or improve my team league rank or whatever. I think that in the right hand, she's completely busted. I think in a competitive environment, she might be easy to blow up, although I haven't seen, how her mobility affects her play in a coordinated environment at a high level. But man, that W quest is going to be the first thing to go. Her Ravenous Hunger, that's going to be capped.
So like right now, a lot of people playing the hero are simply going to lanes, chomping away after level 7, getting that as high as they can, and only showing up for team fights, and really not having to be a part of a lot of the game just because you're being that lane soaker, just that chomp button all day until you show up for the fight.
Which, frankly, I think we could use more of in my games. Nobody's soaking in my games.
Nobody soaks in any games. Don't worry.
Jax, what are your thoughts on Chomp? Jax?
I have a person on my team that's just maining her. It's just entirely. It's just like, okay, this is my new main now. I think those day one nerfs were incredibly warranted and whatnot. I said I wouldn't criticize Blizzard anymore. I won't. I think Blizzard has learned from the backlash from Maiev and Phoenix that we don't care if maybe you nerf somebody too hard initially to the point where like maybe their win rate is iffy, if it means that we're not going to get a bust hero on release. Okay, we saw the Maiev changes go from PTR to live, and all she got was a 5 armor decrease, and she hit 65% win rate like within a few days. We saw Phoenix go live. They touched his damage numbers by like 4 and 62% win rate. Okay, Orphea, everyone saw Rich on stream with Orphea just completely dominating people, and then they said, okay, we're gonna hit her with a pretty substantial nerf, and what do you know? She's at what 48% win rate, like perfect, like a perfect release, strong in the right hands, does some stuff, but is also weak if you don't. I think it's a good
yeah.
release.
Yeah, Blizzard's philosophy has been to just start a character off a little bit stronger than they think
They
than she
acknowledge
should
this.
be.
They acknowledge
Yeah.
this because what they have said in the past is that they want heroes that are stronger than average because it gives them good data in Hero League. Because if they release underpowered heroes, people don't want to play them, and so they don't get the data they need to balance them. That they have said this before, and I have said this is a bad philosophy because you are ruining games by toying with this. Maybe if you release everybody at a 55% win rate, maybe it's fine, but you're missing the mark so wide and releasing these heroes that just get permabanned because they're just so busted.
Yeah, well, it's more than that though. It's also that they want people to learn to play the hero and then get the nerfs, because when everybody starts, they're a newbie at the hero, so they're going to be not as good.
Also true. So Baha, have you had opportunity to play the hero? And if so, what kind of builds are you looking at more so than the others?
I think it's more along the lines of it's just you want to get your chomp down. That's, you guys said it already off the bat. It feels like she's the one thing that I really like about what they've done with heroes since Deckard Cain is they've actually put out decent builds throughout most of them. I feel like Mal'Ganis as well as her are really, really good examples. And even Deckard Cain, there's viability within each talent tier, but that is definitely much like Deckard Cain. A lot of people are you got to take this talent here. You got to take Ancestral Blessings or whatever, because that's just going to buff your team so much and it's so good. I feel like Chomp is exactly that for her. I've actually, for just kind of backing up for a second, Mal'Ganis kind of feels like Blind as a Bat is a choice, and you just have to follow your damage numbers, but that's also coordinated play. But overall, I think she actually sits in the middle very well. On release, I think she's actually really, really good. I have games against her and with her, and it doesn't feel like, all right, she's carried this. It's because we have her, we've won. It feels like she makes a good impact in the game, and I like where she sits on our live server. I was thinking back to, I ran into Kyle Dates, who was one of the, he works on the game. He worked on Kael'thuzad and things like that. So we talked about some of this stuff and how he develops these things. And that was the one thing that they said, that they actually wanted to pull the kind of mentality that you have to have with Hanzo, where he's one of those heroes who are just you got to just play him a lot. You'll figure out where to hit your scatter arrows. You'll figure out where are good places to throw your sonic arrow. And that's exactly the direction that they kind of wanted to go with her. Whereas she's got some cool buttons, but you really learn the mechanics and how she works and how to dip and dive with that Q and how to poke with that and, your ranges. And it's the same kind of thing. And you can say that for every hero, but I think she has a really, really good progression. And overall, I think she's got a lot of viability within all of her talents as well. And I'm excited just to sit there and play her more and more.
Well said. Okay, do you guys want to move on to the big kahuna, all of the changes that happened?
Let's do it.
Okay, so everyone pull up the summary sheet. I'll put it in the description. Let's start off with probably the most controversial one, and then we can go to the fun ones.
This is just a table of contents, though, about what we're talking about in the next points, right?
What do you mean?
This, the what's next panel summary?
Yeah, that's just it'll give you a little bit more detail than what I put here, so you don't have to open it if you don't want to.
Gotcha. Okay, so basically we will be going through these. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with XP changes. How are you guys feeling? This is probably the most.
Oh boy.
This is the most controversial one, and I want to preface this by saying, anything that we say, it's kind of a bunch of hot air because we really have no idea what any of this really means. We can.
Well, you have no idea. We got to play test this.
Oh,
okay?
you did. Oh, we
did.
Now, see,
okay.
The thing is play testing in my experience on the Blizzard BlizzCon floor there, I was more focused on trying to learn how to play Orphea and trying to and you were also playing when I went through solo, you were playing with people who had never played the game before, so it's really tough to get a good sense.
With that said,
anyways, yeah. Okay, I'll bring up the elephant in the room right away, and that's Mopsio. I think it was Quacknix, a lot of EU Grandmasters, Cavalier Guest, I forget who else is on this list, but basically everybody is talking about the XP changes, saying, what reason is there to bother defending my fort, and what reason is there, therefore, to even bother getting the objective? So let's say we're on Infernal Shrines. Why would I bother? The question you have to ask yourself is, why would I bother to go get that first immortal? So let's say you just let your opponent have it. They get the Punisher, and they kill your fort. Big deal. Like, you
250 experience for the
200
2 towers. That's it.
Which is like less than a camp now.
That's less than half a minion wave.
Yeah, it's less than a wave. So you get some XP for the towers, none for the fort. And now what happens is that your opponent is spawning catapults, which is supposed to help you. But what it's really going to do, at least this is the concern, is that it's just going to push the wave all the way back so that you get to sit there by your keep, AFK soak, and gank whoever goes to soak the XP up front. Now you're keeping as much. Now you're basically going to be ahead in experience despite being down structures. You just keep that going until the late game when you win.
I don't think anybody's put it better than that. Like, this has actually turned it from like a meh to like, yeah, no, I can definitely see how this would be a trouble. Only at pro levels, because like people at lower levels will still soak, in the middle of the wave, and they'll push it out. But yeah, no, I can definitely see at pro level, like, this is not a this could be bad. I don't know. Oof.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think the catapult is not a strong enough thing to give you a reason to get a fort, and in fact will actually turn against you against a smart team. Now the
Sylvanas
question
gets
is
possession.
Yeah.
Sylvanas gets possession. Just turns him. We all have to balance around Sylvanas. Baha, Murda, what do you guys think?
I mean, what Ghost just said, it's pretty true. I mean, once the lanes start pushing back at you, you really have no reason to give them opportunity to get in range of that soak. As long as you're not already down full talent tier, which you're not going to be because of the way structures don't give XP. There's no reason to give the opposing team access to those minions, so just block it off. And I don't want to say it's cheese, but like, it sounds like that's going to be the new flavor of quote unquote cheese to just do, is just, hey, we're going to keep possession of this wave and you have no access.
Yeah. Not only that, but like, you were soaking the entire time your opponent was going to go get the objective. So now you're ahead in experience anyway, and you don't get any benefit from winning, from getting that Punisher. Besides a couple catapults.
Yeah. Baha, what do you think?
I don't know. I honestly haven't played it. I haven't seen it. And so my whole thing is like, I've talked to a couple of people who played it. I talked to Crow and Casanova and Droplets, and they actually all were ecstatic for it, but that was off of BlizzCon floor. So realistically, looking at it overall, I don't know if... I'm not sure if the minion waves are still going to function the way that they currently do because of those exact concerns. I think that there should be, or hopefully there'll be, adjustments into speed and duration, or or damage, I guess, that the forts and keeps would be putting out, so that maybe the waves just can't continually do excessive pushing. Or if you even run into the fact of, like, someone was mentioning, they were like, I wonder if they're going to shorten the range of the catapults so that way they come into structure range, so you don't have that kind of always catapult winning lane, and so it's a little bit hard. You have to still push with those catapults a little bit. I feel like not playing it and not experiencing it or having any kind of idea around it, I would hope that's their direction. Otherwise, that is exactly what will pretty much happen. You can literally play around the wave and get it to work for you. But at the same time, I don't know, I'm just realizing this now. I played in an event and there was someone who was a way higher level at solo laner. I think it was like Alex Dids. And they were doing things like freezing the wave and like stuff I've never seen in a solo lane. So I think it's also at that higher tier of play, they see things differently. And I think someone already had mentioned that. So, down in the silver and gold mines, I think you're just going to get people who just push the waves and do that kind of stuff. But once you get to the Diamond Master, Grandmaster, you're going to start seeing that, freezing the wave and playing it slower. So I think that's where the main concern will lie. And of course, those are the people being the most vocal because they already are seeing this. And maybe it's not seen yet, or if it's just something that hasn't been played and they're just like, oh wait, no, they're changing these other things they didn't mention up front because they're minute mechanics and it's in the patch notes now.
Yeah.
If I had to make a prediction, it would be that these changes do not make it live, and that
Same.
large portion of them get changed. A lot of like the same way that third ban got moved from mid to top because of the backlash. I think this is going to be one of those things that maybe these changes never happen. Like like they just it's one of those
I hope they do
BlizzCon.
I hope it happens at least for a month.
No,
And that they test it for a month.
Blizzard is really
I'd be fine with
stubborn about pulling changes that they do. Okay, like they released Hanamura and like they didn't move it for like 5-6 months. They put it in the ranked rotation. They knew it was busted. You know, they did the same with like Haunted Mines. You know, they just removed it again. They're really stubborn about if they make a change that goes live, like if it's not like a bug or whatnot, that they do not like to remove it because it shows like.
Are you
weakness.
sure that it's not just them collecting data? Because you said 5-6 months for both of those, basically. So it might have just been they put it out after 2 months. They realized that it wasn't going good, so they said, "All right, we'll collect 3 months of data and then pull it."
Well, if they knew it wasn't, if they knew it wasn't going good after 2 months, they shouldn't have left it in the ranked rotation for 3 more. You know that.
Well,
I think they were trying to see if it got better.
Exactly. And the other thing too is you're not going to pull a map mid rank season. Because remember, what was it? Because I remember, wasn't it HOTS 2.0? They made that mistake, didn't they? They made the HOTS 2.0. It was like mid season, was it not?
I could actually pull up the.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, it's not just third mid ban. They kept sidewalls. They got rid of that. They tried to think about getting rid of that one tower, and they decided to keep it. That's sorry, that's not actually an example. But
it never made it live. That was my point.
Yeah.
It never makes it live.
Oh no, they wanted to get rid of sidewalls. That never made it live. And remember the crazy thing with the Cursed Hollow boss? They wanted to have a boss despawn once you capped the other one.
Yeah, that never made it live.
And then boss spawning at 10 minutes. That also never made it live.
Yeah, so that's my bet is that this is either going to never get implemented or it's going to get substantially changed.
And look at what happened to PRA as well.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. You know. Yeah. Do you guys want to get into the ranked updates? I mean, this is where the fun parts happen. This is where like we all get to like smile and like thank God for Blizzard kind of stuff.
So I'll summarize it for us a bit, but they're going to be combining Hero League and Team League. That was one of the biggest announcements. They're planning on making MMR something that you can see inside the game and hopefully access to from some sort of
I think the API was not confirmed at all. Like so
right. But if we get the API, would be better.
Yes.
But that's exciting, especially for us here at NGS. It means that our placements for during the season can be based upon actual MMR rather than a hotslog pseudo MMR that we've been using for so long.
People don't get to like complain that like why are you using Hero League MMR instead of Team League MMR? That's clearly this is like an ongoing debate. It's like people like will die on these hills. Like no, Hero League is the most. Is the better one. No, Team League is, and we take an average. It's like, well, that's making both sides angry. Well, like you can't complain if Blizzard says you are here, like this is your MMR. Like you put your ire at Blizzard, okay, not at us. Okay, we're gonna go off of the data that they give us.
I mean, they should put it on themselves. They're the one at that rank. Ka-chow. Hey, no, I mean, I'm a gold 5 player. I am I am where I need to be and where I need to grow from. Like it's on you to progress.
Yeah, 100% agree.
To quickly finish summarizing these, we have placement games are going to be down to 3 instead of 10, which is exciting. No PBM, no promo demo games. There will be loss forgiveness if someone leaves during a match, and then stacking penalties for leavers to make it even worse to be a constant disconnector.
So like overall, all of these changes are actually like great. Like they've all been what we've been asking for like years. The problem is this can go one of two ways. This can go the way of third ban, which is we get it and we get it exactly what we want and it happens immediately, or this could go the way of voice chat, which is we get it promised and then it doesn't happen for 2 years because of unforeseen consequences. So like that's my one worry is that they get cold shoulder and cold feet, not cold shoulder, cold feet.
I saw somewhere that they want to put it out the next season.
I am sure they do. They said piecemeal style though. They said
Well,
not
which
all at
piece
once.
though?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like visible MMR, I imagine will take longer.
Yeah, I think you're right. That part might take longer.
Lost Forgiveness will take even longer.
It was all next season, I thought. That's the way that it was. That's the way it came across to me when they presented the information. It absolutely seemed like this is what they wanted to implement next season.
It's possible.
Like that's at least how it came across to me. Granted, as I said, I watched everything from my phone when I was sprinting between interviews. So there's that.
The summary just says entirely reworked ranked system that will be rolling in piecemeal. So take that as you will. I didn't buy the virtual ticket, so this is all off of the summary. I have to imagine that combining Hero League and Team League, visible MMR, and no promo and demo games have to come as a package because they kind of rely off of each other. Like if you're going to change the promo demo system, you're not just going to leave it like it is right now. So you're going to change it. And if you're going to change it, well, then you might as well like put in the MMR. But again, I'm talking out of my ass, so I don't know.
I mean, I think they're just going to directly show you your MMR is this, and that puts you in this silver league, just like Hot Slogs does it right now. And just like it's the weird system. We have a weird hybrid system where you get static amount of points to move up in Hero League, and that's supposed to make it feel like more of a ladder or something and like make you feel better for winning. But that required them to implement PRAs to drag your rank up or down based off what your actual MMR is. And then also the way they implemented PRA didn't exactly work the best. So yeah.
I think that is actually really important to say about the performance matchmaking, the rating, is that they took the lessons that Overwatch did, they took the complaints that we had and the data they had collected, and they were man enough to say, this doesn't look like it'd be an added benefit, so we're not going to implement it. We're going to use it to help people learn how to improve, but we're not going to use it as a detriment, and which I think is really big on them. And those was one of my favorite changes, is that I was all on board the performance-based matchmaking if it worked, and now they're saying it doesn't work. And so I'm like, yeah okay.
I do think I think when they, during one of the panels, they did talk about how they still are collecting data for it. And they're trying to, they're basically, they did say it's not dead, but they were basically saying, we're running it in the background of all of your Hero League games. It's not affecting anything, but that's what I remember, is that they're still utilizing it and collecting data for it. So they want to implement it at one point, but I think you said it right. Like, yeah, it was implemented in Overwatch, and they were like, cool, like, let's do that too. And
then Overwatch, I think like, they found that
so yeah, no, it's just like, they're like, well, let's back it up. And I think that's actually, if you know something's not right for your game, absolutely. I mean, mechanics in World of Warcraft, StarCraft, and Overwatch aren't going to overlap each other. Even in Heroes, the same thing. So I definitely think that they do a good job of kind of working with this, and I think they have a lot of good things in development, but they just literally cannot tell us. So we're left with kind of like going back, and not to like harp on this or anything, but just looking at the comic and everything, I think they leave things out because they're just like, well, we have these things down the road, so if we tell you this now, you guess this. So there is some shrouded mystery, and I can understand why, but I get the kind of like desire to like, just give me, like, tell us now so we just know, like, give us a little progress bar on your website being like, all right, PBM is here. So
yeah.
Going through, because I really want to get to Ghostdunk's part. So we'll go through these real fast. I mean, loss forgiveness and stacking penalties for leavers both sound amazing. But again, I feel like it's kind of like that's probably really low on their priority in terms of like, it seems like it would be really easy to implement, but actually like it'll probably take a year or so. So I'll be waiting for it.
I feel like that has to be the first thing. I feel like it has to be the first.
It probably should be, but they're probably going to give us the same excuse that, the same people who are working on loss forgiveness and stacking penalties are the same people who are working on giving you visible MNR, and we view that as a high priority.
It's higher execution. It's harder to do than everything else on the list.
So we can figure out, I think, the reward afterwards, but I think we should actually make a bet on what we all think next season will implement, because I personally think that is going to be all of these. It's not going to be next season.
I'm betting
all of this is next season.
I'm betting. When does next season start? December?
I think it's like December. It's like the second week in December, I think.
Yeah.
It's right before my birthday.
I'm betting they combine Hero League and Team League.
Yep.
Okay.
And no promo demo games and placement games, but they don't give us a visible MMR, they don't give us lost forgiveness, and they don't give us stacking penalty. I'm betting.
Okay.
I'm betting
Alright.
they do that.
I think that's fair.
Because those seem like the easiest things.
So
that they
you're
can
saying
do.
you're saying like 50% of the list here.
Yeah, about 50%
that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And I'm not including PBM because that's
Yeah,
just
no,
a
that's just a thing in the background. Yeah.
I can see that, but I'm saying it's all 6. I'm saying it's all 6.
Well,
I'm
it should be. It should be
yeah.
with how like they haven't been doing too many changes to it, and like they seemed really excited about it, and so they probably should implement it. But oh well. Ghost, Murda.
My bet is everything except Lost Forgiveness.
Ooh.
Okay, Murda.
I don't think they're going to get us that MMR. As bad as I want it, I think it'd be great for the game. I don't think we're going to get that. I'll say, yeah, I think they're going to get something in for lost forgiveness or stacking penalties. We'll see. But so I'll say 5 out of 6. Just no MMR.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on. Sylvanas Stitches rework. We don't have to spend too much time on it. I mean, I think I hope we all agree that they both have kind of not broken mechanics, but like they don't fit their roles. So like Stitches isn't a frontline tank because he's trying to get a hook, and Sylvanas isn't a specialist because she has to push with her. You know, her trade is her trade.
What's a specialist?
What is a specialist?
Well, from what I've heard, they're gonna maybe make Sylvanas's trait into an activatable with a cooldown.
I think they're getting rid of like that ability. Like they might keep it like shut down a tower for 5 seconds, kind of like what Syndergosa does. But I think they have a prime opportunity that they're reworking all the specialists into damage dealers. Okay, like this seems like the easiest thing that you can do. She's already basically an assassin. All you have to do is remove her trait or make it on an activatable, turn it into something where it's not as frustrating as what it is right now. And I think that's an easy change. And if they don't do that, like they will like fundamentally fail.
I think
go
Possession
ahead.
is secretly fun. I'm very outspoken on this, but I love Possession, and I really want to see her kit rely like Windrunner is one of my favorite talents on Sylvanas, and having that kind of mobile playstyle on her, I think would be a lot of fun.
There's an interview I did with Skimmy and also one I did with Tetcher. Sylvanas cannot go into the game that she currently, like how she currently is, like period. Jayhow beat them so handily with Sylvanas, like sub 10 minutes taking down a keep. And then they were playing on like the Blizzard, they were playing on the BlizzCon patch, like on the floor before, basically people could come out and play and stuff. So they got to experience all this, and like they were basically saying like it is the way she currently sits is busted. And so I think we're going to be not seeing Possession. That's the kind of feel that I have, because Possession and Catapults, the way that they're going to be going into the game. And then Stitches, I agree. I play a ton of Stitches. I hate the fact that I have to be in my backline to be a frontline tank. But at the same time, I do love... Yeah, I have fun with Stitches, but like it's a weird role that you have to balance yourself. And I think that's part of just playing the hero. But that was just my sidetrack on the heroes.
Fun fact though, like Stitches is one of the only heroes whose kit is exactly the same as it was when it was released. I think Stitches back in alpha, yeah.
Well, he had changes, and he like fell into that slam build, which we have now. But that was really about it. Yeah, it's never had any like. He's never had any sort of like instead of having battle momentum, it's like angelic momentum or diabolic momentum. So he's never had any of those kind of like. But I think everything. Yeah, you're right, Ghost. I think he's just only had stat changes. I don't think he's ever had like renames of talents or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his hook's just so classic. And they even said they're never gonna change it because they love it and they want it to always be a part of his kit.
Actually,
you can't get rid of Pudge.
If you wanna technically make an argument, he had an addition of Friendly Hook.
Yes,
true.
That's true.
Because he actually used to have the talent Friendly Hook at 13,
Yep.
and because I used to take it and fuck with my friends. Be like, oh, you're winning a team fight, deuces.
Okay, armor stacking removal. This is interesting. And again, I really don't kind of understand it. Not from like a how could you do this, but from like a syntax or perspective. Like, what are they actually doing? Like, can you stack like multiple physical and spell armors? Does it just apply to normal armor? What happens with debuffs? Like, Ghost, you explain it to me because this is confusing.
I actually don't know how it works with physical and spell armor. My guess is that
the greatest of both.
Actually, the thing is, I think so. If it's spell and physical, my guess is that if I have 40 spell and 25 physical, that's just what I have.
Yes.
And any other armor effect, so let's say someone throws a 30 armor on top of me, I will have 30 physical armor and 40 spell armor.
Yes. It works the same way as movement buffs. Is the way the easy way that they explained it is it takes the highest stat that you're benefiting from. So gone are the days of like 80 some armor Tychus, because that is that was basically when they were doing all these major buffs to the armors for heroes. And at least this is my tinfoil theory, and it in my head it makes sense. But they buffed all these heroes and gave them like stupid amounts of armor to give. And then people started doing these crazy, tankless comps where you can just stack armor on Tychus and he just shreds the front line, because how can anyone do anything to him? But now that comes into the game, so we're going to be getting this where it's like, all right, well, if you have a 40 buff on armor and a 40 buff on magic or spell armor, you can't go any higher than that. And if you get a 20, then you just have it's mitigated. You just have 40.
Tell me this, how does it work with Garrosh? So like Garrosh is at, say, 20 armor, and Morales gives him a safeguard for 30.
Safeguard.
So that bumps it up to he would just have the 30. To say he's at 40 armor and Morales gives him the safeguard, it wouldn't affect him at all.
Exactly. It takes your highest buff and applies
this is actually
it.
really good because it nerfs him like really a lot.
So it's exactly that. Yeah. It's when you were able to sit there and stack armor on heroes in the front line and they were just impossible to kill. Gone are those days. Like, it was the same thing where you can't have you can't have like a Lucio buff and then what is it like? You used to have like dash on some heroes. So like if you had like speed boost from Lucio and then you had a dash on top of it, you could just double up those stacks. But then they said like no, you only get one max benefit. Same thing like with Lunara, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a brilliant solution, I think, because there's only two ways to do armor the way Blizzard wants it, where one, it's obvious what armor means. Like, if I have 40 armor, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And two, you want to avoid this sort of like armor stacking thing, and you don't want it to be too powerful. Most other MOBAs, they have a thing where it's like diminishing returns, and the more armor you get, like the less good it is. But it's really hard to know what that actually means. And so what this change does is it makes it clear to the user how much damage they're going to take when they have 40 armor. And it makes it clear, like, if someone gives me a buff for this amount of armor, how much armor will I have after this? And it's basically infinite diminishing returns. Like, it really lowers it to a good point. So I think it's a very smart change.
You want to go, Murda?
Yeah, QM role updates. What do you guys think about this? So we're going to have set compositions now anytime you queue in, unless you're queuing with a team of 5 where you can still do whatever you want. I'm yet to figure out how they're going to get the matchmaking to work, but every single composition will now have a tank, a support, and a ranged assassin.
No. Not a support, a healer. I'm pretty sure it's because we have the role updates as well. So it's a tank, a healer, and a ranged assassin. Not just a warrior, a support, and an assassin. This is very important because the support counts Medivh, Tassadar, and I think even like Lost Vikings now. So it's very important that it is healer and not tank.
Blizzard, I will die for Blizzard on every battlefront except for why the Lost Vikings are a support.
Where else
hero.
are they supposed to go? I'm like people tried to get me angry
in the
this,
specialist role.
There is no specialist role.
Exactly,
which is the best thing that they did.
They're actually kind of like an old school MOBA support, which is basically
it's utility, and I know it's just like I showed that to my friends. Like, I took a screenshot and like sent it to a bunch of people. They're just like, oh, okay, cool. Wait, what the heck?
Yeah. This is Olaf. I'm healing you.
You just couldn't put them anywhere else. You really couldn't. And they're doing the same thing that Overwatch did. Overwatch did a few months ago, where they removed the defense and attack categories because they were like, the roles are like so interchangeable at this point. Like, you can have a Junkrat on offense and you can have a Pharah on defense. So like just make it a damage category, and I think they're doing the exact same thing. The only demarcation is a ranged assassin versus a melee assassin, which I really like. I really think there's a good change, and it goes into the QM updates, which this is why I moved it a little bit so that we could go right into the Ghostdunk dinner, because we have Ghostdunk to thank for this, because he convinced them to do this single-handedly. He saved all of our lives, and I wanna.
No, I actually don't. He didn't. You actually destroyed Quick Match. I actually forced KO Milker at Food Point to take it to blind pick. So yeah, I think the Quick Match updates are okay. I like that. The biggest problem with the game, and this is why I told Kale this, and we'll get to the dinner in a second, is that new players, the QM sucks. Like,
yes.
It's fun to log into as your favorite hero, and I understand that's a big part of the game. But as Jaxster said, I think it's even on this podcast, you can do a QM where you queue in as a hero and then have the option to change it, but once you see your team's comp and the map. So
do you want to take the two arguments that I get with that? Like, because people always bring it up, and like I don't think they'll ever stop bringing it up. So the number one argument, which I think is completely dumb, is it wastes too much time. It's like it's 30 seconds, and it's like, that's if you are worrying about 30 seconds, man, in a video game, like I don't know what to tell you, man. Like you got some serious problems.
Well, you're about to waste 20.
Well, not only that, like brawls are supposed to be fast and fun, yet they have that exact screen.
So and my other point is the case of like, because you're switching to blind pick, you get to remove those matchmaking rules, which I think Cav has said slows down the matchmaker anyway, so you're probably going to be making up that time. But then the second point, which I think is something that we could actually probably talk about, Ghostdunk, is the flaming aspect. So you can still pick, if you want to solo queue Murky in QM, you can still pick that, but it does give your teammates the ability to try and convince you not to do Murky. And I do think this is a somewhat reasonable argument of like, it increases flaming in terms of like, you now have the choice not to pick Murky, or the choice not to pick TLV if they are not seen as ideal picks by your team. And to that, I kind of say like, maybe you shouldn't pick Murky in the first place, but you know,
I mean,
you can just ignore them.
Yeah, I have the exact same reaction when a Nova loads into my Quick Match. It's like, okay, I'm in Quick Match. This is where Nova gets played. I'm going to have to deal with a Nova on my team. I would rather that happen and I have a chance to react to that, because if I'm loading up like Tracer, I don't want to play a Tracer with a Nova on my team. I'm going to switch to something with Wave Clear.
I think the amount, I think people take it very, like they're just like, oh, I'm just going to get flamed for picking Murky every game. And it's like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think people are going to realize that QM is QM, and they're not going to take it so seriously as to just say, I think they're going to be like, do you want to switch off a Murky? And it's just like, nope. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll try and go a tank and try and support it. I mean, it will make the experience. Yeah. So I just remembered. The thing is, it maybe makes the experience a little bit worse for that one person, but it makes the experience for those 4 other people exponentially better, because they are able to fill.
Yeah. I mean, like, what we really want out of Quick Match is a mode where, like, you win the game because you won the game. Like, when new players come in, especially if they come from another MOBA, they don't want to feel like things are completely random or out of their control. They want to see that there's some depth to the game. I'm actually curious, Baha, like, what your take on the flaming is.
On flaming specific heroes?
Well, the blind pick debate in general, and then off of that,
like, would you think it would increase flaming if you could change your hero in Quick Match before you got into the map?
I feel like in any game, there's going to be people who are just going to be dicks for no reason, and I feel like that is no. I mean, you'd load into that situation. Right. You've got an entire composition and it's set. Like, say I've had a bad day and I for some reason I just want to mess with people. Like, I just want to make their lives just as bad as mine. I'll queue as Vala, because Vala will get picked up a bunch, and the last second I'll swap to Murky. Or the last second I'll swap to the Lost Vikings and I have like 2 games on them or something, you know, like, or else, like, me personally, I'll swap to Ana, because me hitting a skill shot heal, goodbye. Like, no, it's I can see an argument for both, but at the same time, like, I think there's also going to be people who are like, oh, wait, we already have a Vala, like, let me switch to Greymane or something, like, or, you know, like, it's, I can see the duality of it at the same time, like, while it can be beneficial, it can work, but maybe it's one of those things where their report system has to be a little bit more up on the up for this to kind of work out, where then you can go, okay, all right, well, this person's notorious for swapping to a hero, and then there's always like complaints against this account after they swap to a hero or something, but that's data that they'd have to have available, collect, and be able to use. So I lean away from it. I personally think, like, while it would be a cool function, I think that, at least for myself, when I queue into quick match, I know I'm going to quick match, and I'm just going there to test out the things that I've been working on in AI. Like, for example, when a new hero comes out, I'll play him a bunch in AI, then take him into quick match and just see if I can actually use it against real people. And then it's like, oh man, you suck with this hero. It's like, cool, it's my first game against people. Okay. All right, well, I'll get him to 5, get my gold, and I won't touch him. But overall, like, there's a duality to it, and it really comes down to, if Blizzard had a better system at preventing the things that are already in the game, it would work. But where we currently sit, I think they need to work on that back end stuff first.
And again, I think none of it matters really, because they're not going to do this, and even more so now, they wouldn't change to blind pick now that they have set roles. So I hate to push this off of such a good topic of conversation, but this recording is going to be a monster for me to edit, so we might as well push on to the final section, which will be Ghostdunk. He sat down and had some foods. So went to Wendy's and got some food with the devs. No, you tell the story, Ghost.
So I went to the BlizzCon charity dinner. I was lucky enough to snag myself some tickets. The tickets were priced in order to donate to the Children's Hospital of Orange County, or CHOC as they call it. It's a very good organization, and we heard a lot of stories from employees and some other people that have, like, it's changed lives. It's saved lives. I think a large reason is Mike Morhame's kid was in CHOC, I believe. And so that was a really good cause, and so huge shout out to Blizzard for that. But the fun part was I got to go and have some fancy food. They had some brisket, they had some risotto, a whole bunch of stuff. It was really good. But you also got to talk directly to Blizzard employees. So among the ones I talked to were Matt Cooper, Joe, I'm going to ruin that, I'm going to butcher this, P. Biora, and Kale Milker, who is probably going to be the head of Heroes development, and Stanislav Spivakov, who is a technical director for the game, and he's a very smart dude and really cool to talk to. I have you could probably get the link in the description. From my Reddit thread where I posted a lot of bullet points. I want to start off. Obviously, we talked about QM. Kale Milker came up and asked me what I thought about the state of the game, and the first thing I said was basically that whole tirade I went on about how quick match sucks. And they looked at each other. This was before any of the announcements, and they kind of like looked at each other, and they're like, "We think we have, we're gonna rectify that." But the biggest thing for me was my personal vendetta of figuring out what the heck is up with Reconnect and Spectate and all those sort of things.
Did you do the replay?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, exactly.
You are my savior, Ghost.
Yeah, so... Yeah, like, I wanted to find out how it worked, and so I talked to them, and they said, so if you don't know, like, how Heroes of the Storm works is they basically clients send each other actions, and like every button you click, everywhere you move your mouse, every keyboard key you hit generates an action, and that gets sent to everywhere else, and then your Heroes of the Storm video game takes all those actions and then recreates the state of the universe according to the rules of the game, and because of this, that's how your game knows what's happening. So what they've done is, so far the current state of it is they've made reconnect times better by having the game make a local save states. So if you're 10 minutes into a game, the game now saves the state of the universe as it is. So if you disconnect, you don't have to recreate the state of the game from square one and just go through all these events, calculating where all the characters are and what everyone's health is and stuff. It's got it right there at 10 minutes. And so when you log back in, you're only replaying the stuff that you missed. They also want to make it even faster by having a peer-to-peer technology. So let's say I log out at 2 minutes in the game. I don't log back in until 18 minutes later. That's 16 minutes worth of game that my computer has to chug through and recalculate. What they can do instead is have, my friend in the party, his computer will save what the game looks like at 18 minutes, and it will send that directly to me instead of me getting all the individual outputs. And so it's a little more complicated, but it's actually can be faster than how Reconnect works in the first place. So that's their goal for the future. I then also asked if we could get things like how Dota 2 does it, where you can, if you disconnect and you try to reconnect, you will instantly get back in the game. If you want to spectate somebody, you will instantly get into their game. And that's because they save the full game state on their server side. And even though the netcode for Here's the Storm is peer-to-peer, the server always has the option of following along and keeping things going on its end. And what also would happen too is that replays would be could be available too from a central server. So maybe in the future, if I get like in Dota 2, you can give it a game code. Any game of Dota played, if you have the game code, you can go back and watch it in the client in Dota 2. And they have said that it's possible to make these changes. They're a little bit worried about the amount of server resources they'd have to spend. And also, it's way further down the road in terms of priority. And the peer-to-peer sharing thing that I talked about earlier is going to be implemented first. But the big bottom line here, if your eyes have glazed over by now of me talking about these technical things, the bottom line here is that you don't need a new engine to fix this stuff about Heroes of the Storm. Implementing this stuff does not take creating a new engine. It forces you to modify the existing engine, which they're able to do, and which we saw them do back in August with having the game save local save states. So people are always on and on about, oh, let's get a new engine. And it's like, oh, we got a new engine. It's like, well, we didn't get a new engine. We just upgraded it. Like, Heroes of the Storm is basically the StarCraft 2 engine, but it's a different version of it. It's just a version of it with different and more features. Like, you don't say you got a new web browser every time Google Chrome updates, but you basically do. That for me quelled so much of the debate around this game, and I was like, a weight has been lifted off of my chest.
Yeah, again, it all depends on the implementation, though. So if this is something that comes around 2-3 months, I'll be really happy about. But if it's...
Oh, it won't.
Yeah. Well,
that was just something that they talked about as far as like what they want to do in the future. I don't think it'll be...
Then I'm hesitant on giving them credit yet, because as it is right now, I mean, my main thing is you don't like the reconnect. My main thing is the replay mechanic, and I think they're the same, or the different side of the same coin, to use a phrase. So I run my team for Heroes of the Dorm, and we like to watch replays, and we can't do that. Fundamentally, if you want to watch your replays with teams, you cannot do that in Heroes of the Storm as it is right now. If a patch happens, you cannot watch any games with anybody before that patch, and that's a travesty. And I don't know how it's remained so long. I don't know why. Even if you want to watch an old game of your own, if it's on an old version of it by yourself, you have to exit out of HOTS, and it loads it up like on this weird old, very slow loading system that is super.
And you actually have to have those old patch files in your installation folder in order to watch it.
Yeah, it'll download it for you, but it takes a bit.
And not to mention that sometimes the fast forward mechanic doesn't work. Sometimes if you try and seek through, it will shut down, and you have to reload in all over again. You can't spectate in game. That's just a tangent. But the replay, it just feels horrible. It feels clunky. Sometimes you can't back off. If you like press the 1 through 0 keys in the replay to look on a person, you're supposed to be able to click backspace and it will reset it. It won't work nowadays. And it's like replay has never gotten any sort of an update or anything. And I just feel horrible about it. And it's in just a horrible state right now.
It's very buggy. It's very buggy for sure. And I think a lot of that is bugs. I think some of it is because of how it's done. But like some of the bugs, like you could implement a replay system now without a lot of those bugs. But I think that if they went to a system where if, a server kept all the information about a replay, like, sort of in, saved up. I actually don't know how Dota 2 does replays. If going through a replay has the same amount of processing as it does now. I'll have to check that out. But
that's my main concern when it comes to like we don't need a new engine for Reconnect. Okay, I never thought that we needed a new engine for Reconnect. I always thought we needed a new engine because of the replay mechanic and because of the player that they have is tied to the StarCraft engine. I don't know if they can make optimization improvements. I don't know if they can or if they're just like they just don't want to. But that is my big thing when it comes to optimizing the game is that the replay mechanic does not work. And I want to be able to go over my solo laner's performance, in game, because I can't do that with my Twitch stream, which is what we're using now to watch replays because I'm in the 4-man. So I can't watch what my solo laner does. I have to go into the game. Oh, it's a 2-week-old fire. Can't do it. Or even the more insane things is even if you want to do it like right after, if we play a game on Monday and we want to do the replays on like Tuesday or Wednesday and a patch comes out in between then, it will be on the old version and you can't watch it with friends. That's insane. That's absurd.
Yeah. Can I suggest, it's a hack, but what's worked for us is watching it on Discord, sharing your stream on Discord and starting a call. If you have a decent enough upload speed, it works pretty well. It is just one person controlling it and no one else can like check individual thing, but it's a decent hack, but it's sad that you have to do that.
We've done Twitch streams or we've done it so that I'm the only one watching the replay and everyone is watching my stream of it in live time. And so that's a one way that we've gotten around, but this needs to be something that they have to fix. And it's the game is 3 years old and replay has never been touched.
Yeah, it's all bugs in the replay engine, how it works. It doesn't have anything to do with the way that the engine fundamentally is stored. There's ways that they could improve it, but a lot of the stuff you're seeing is not part of the engine. Just look to going over some of the extra stuff that I found here. Like a lot of this, I think, is some stuff that we already knew or like stuff that was clarified. But I think some of the more interesting things, the public API, really hard to put in because of privacy concerns is a huge concern. Let's see. I found out that MMR is indeed a kind of true skill-like system, and if you know your MMR algorithms, you'll be familiar with true skill being the famous Microsoft invented algorithm for deciding skill levels of players with 5 people. And the other thing, the most interesting thing was I talked directly with Stas Spivakov, who is the technical director, and they have a lot of internal tools to simulate games from replays outside of the game client. So they've got tools that can look at a replay file and without playing the video game, they can step through and be like, okay, this minion wave is here and this player is doing this, which is not something that's in the replay file. It might be hard for non-technical people to understand, but like the best example is if I'm Vala and I shoot my hungering arrow, my Q, at somebody, the replay file does not contain whether I hit it. It doesn't contain how much damage it does. It doesn't even contain whether I could have cast it at all. Like if I'm out of mana and I go to hit that button, I think it even registers on the replay. But like there's like so much of the information about how a game goes is inside the Heroes of the Storm game itself and not in the replay file. So they've got tools to do this in-house to like go over replay and be like, okay, this, you know, this stun hit, etc. And like they get a lot of information from it. I asked them if they, you know, could make a tool that would be able to allow a third party, you know, us to do it. And like that would give us so much information, especially about like your own personal replays. And one of the things I suggested was keeping track of more stats, like things like skill shot accuracy. I would like to know if I'm on Murda, I hit 83% of my storm bolts. That's a really good percentage of storm bolts. Or another, and the thing that Stas really liked was I suggested that you be able to track how good talents are. So if I'm Thrall and I pick follow through, I would love to see how much bonus damage I got off of follow through, and based off of like, and I could compare that to all the games where I picked Ancestral Wrath, and I could see how much extra damage I got from Ancestral Wrath and how much self-healing I got from Ancestral Wrath as compared to, you know, the extra damage maybe I traded out for follow through. Like I would have so much information about what's good, what talents are good and what talents are good for me and my playstyle. So that was some fun stuff to talk about.
Well, I can say that I certainly am jealous you got to go to that. It sounds like a lot of awesome people were there, and getting that unique experience to get to talk one-on-one. I know the whole HOTS community was hyped when you made this post. I'm looking at it now, 1,150 upvotes, so that's some good Reddit karma for you.
Yeah, and so by the way, I'm so sorry I killed Quick Match.
Hey, if it happens, then I think a lot of people will be happy. There'll be some people who are sad, but I think I'd be pretty happy for it. But hey, guys, that brings us to the end of pod number 9. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we head out? I can go ahead and thank our guest today, Bahamut, the 3-time champion caster of the season. Anything you got planned for season 6 coming in? Anything big in the casting side of things for you, Baha?
Oh, I am just putting my name in every single hat I can get it into. I mean, it's casting Here's the Storm. It's my favorite thing to do when I'm not doing work. So, yeah, no, I'm literally on that. You can find me at Bahamut Gaming everywhere, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. And yeah, as Murda said, I do a ton of Nexus Gaming Series casting. When that comes around, I cast for other small leagues. I've jumped around here and there on just like little events too. So yeah, follow me on Twitter. That's the easiest way to keep track of what I'm up to. But right now it's just grinding Hero League and Team League and just trying to have fun playing the game. I don't get to do that a ton, and I'm trying to I got to jump over at Heroes Lounge a little bit. But overall, it's I'm having fun just playing the game.
Jax, you want to let the people know where to find you?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Jaxster37. Again, I do these rants, and if you were interested in the QM discussion specifically that we were going over Ghost and I earlier, I post a lot of my own personal calculations and experiences in terms of I'm a statistics person, so I'll do regression analysis of how they affect each other and etc. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you know, you can follow me and I'll be posting a lot of that stuff. So that's pretty much it for me.
Ghost?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Ghostdunk, where I will be casting plenty of Heroes of the Storm. It is also one of my favorite things to do, doing some bit stuff over at Heroes Lounge. Might get it some Heroes hype games after a while, and NGS for sure. Once season 6 starts up, you can also see me at Twitter at Illuminated Wax, and I think that is about it. I'm gonna be trying to stream more personally. I'm also having a lot of fun playing the game, having a lot of fun on my new team. Right now we're playing in Heroes Lounge, but practice is coming together real well. We're called Hakuna Shimada, which we mentioned previously on the podcast before I was a member. Yeah. We brought up that name. It's one of my favorite names of one of the teams, so I'm having a lot of fun.
Are you Timon or Pumbaa?
Neither. I think that's got to be... if I had to guess, it would be DK Salt and the Doctor are probably those two, and Wintermute might be Simba, or no, I'd say Doctor is probably Simba, and it's Wintermute and DK Salt or Timon and Pumbaa, and I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm Nala. I'm gonna go with Nala.
All right, guys, you can find me over twitch.tv/MurdaRG, over on Twitter @MurdaRG. I do want to remind you guys that if you want to support this podcast and NGS in general, you can become a patron over at patreon.com/Heroes Nexus Gaming Series. We need your support. We love your support. There's so many amazing things going on. NGS recently just announced a brand new tech team, a brand new creative team. They're hard at work bringing you all of the cool updates for Season 6. Sign-ups are in mid-January. Mark it on your calendar. We'll be back for more. But until then, that's going to conclude Episode 9 of Nexus Now.
All right.
Wait. Where's your Smithle?
Oh,
No.
that's true. You know what? Let's leave it out of one.
All right. Leave him guessing.